I know that I primarily talk about politics on my channel, but I'm also a gamer, and video games are a big part of my life. I've grown up playing video games. I grew up playing stuff like Vex, Halo, Call of Duty, Ghost Recon, Counter Strike, Simpsons Hit and Run, the Lord of the Rings movie tie-in game. You name it. I've played a lot of video games within my life. There's a lot of video games that have had an impact on my life, you know. I have memories of playing games as a kid, like playing my DS at school and getting my DS taken away, going over to friends' houses and playing split screen Halo, you know, stuff like that. But there's never been a game that has changed me as much as something like these Soulsborne games has. And I kind of just wanted to talk about that. I was originally intending on making a Let's Play of Dark Souls on my second channel. I have never played Dark Souls before, and or beaten Dark Souls. I've beaten and played plenty of Souls-like games: Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Demon Souls. I've made it pretty far in 3, but I've never beat Dark Souls. So when I went to go and make a Let's Play on my channel of Dark Souls, halfway through hours and hours of recording, I realized I just couldn't do it. There's something about these games where it's not just entertainment, you know. It's an experience, and I can't experience a game like this and give commentary at the same time. I have to sit down and experience it, take everything in, and you know, sometimes do a lot of boring shit like walking around and exploring and things like that. I had to just play this game without making a Let's Play out of it. Dark Souls and these Soulsborne-like games, whatever, you know, they're more than just video games, at least to me. They're art, you know. They say a lot, and Miyazaki, the creator of these Dark Souls games, he's an artist. The biggest argument for video games being art is a game like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, Elden Ring, whatever, you name it, right? All the From Software games, these are art pieces, and they say a lot. And more than that, they mean a lot to me. They mean more to me than any sort of video game has ever meant to me. These games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, they have changed me in a way, right? My first Souls-like game ever that I played was Bloodborne. I played Bloodborne when I was 18, you know. I just graduated high school. I moved out to Vegas, and I was really struggling back then, right? And life felt really hard for me, and it felt like I couldn't succeed at anything at the time, right? I felt very hopeless, very depressed, you know, very beat down at the time. And then I played Bloodborne, right? And through playing Bloodborne, you know, I'm already kind of beat down, you know. I felt directionless. And then I go and play this game, and the game was just beating me down, right? And I felt even worse playing that fuck ass game. But something that I realized through playing it is that, you know, I had to make sure that I at least gave a fair shot, right? And I really persevered through that game. And you know, through the struggling or whatever, when I finally beat the first boss, and I think it was I forgot what boss it was. It's the guy that turns into a werewolf. I'm sorry that I forgot his name. But I felt on top of the world, right? All that struggling, all that absolute fucking pain that I was feeling throughout that game, right? Once I beat that boss, it's like I haven't felt something like that in a long time at that point, right? I felt accomplishment, and that feeling at the time was the best feeling in the world. And I kept on playing the game, and I kept on playing the game, and I ended up learning a very valuable lesson to enjoy the struggle, right? It was a lesson that I very desperately needed to learn at the time, was just to sit and struggle, you know, and understand that shit isn't always just struggle. It was a lesson that I just desperately needed, you know? And feeling that great feeling of achievement, you know, after the absolute torture of struggle in that game, it's just the best feeling in the world. And it's something that really changed me to this day, you know? I feel like that's the whole intention of these games. I feel like it's evident through the artwork, the story, the game design. I feel like that's the intention of these games. And if it's not, I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But that's the lesson that I take out of these games. I compare these games a lot to my life. There will always be struggle in life. There will always be dark times. There will always be insurmountable odds placed against you. There will always be bullshit that's thrown at you, right? And life is kind of always a struggle, you know? And it's kind of up to you to persevere through that. And what I learned through these games is that that sense of achievement makes it all worth it. And you just have to struggle for a little bit. And dare I say, even learn to enjoy the struggle. That's something that I've learned throughout my life, is just to enjoy the struggle. And that has really changed me. And I don't know where I would be at this point in time without playing Bloodborne, back in 2019, you know? I don't know where I would be at today if I never played Bloodborne and learned this lesson through this fuck-ass video game, you know? I know I'm calling it fuck-ass or whatever, but I love these games. I think that they're absolutely beautiful while being disturbing and depressing and dark at times, you know? But you can't take the beauty without having it be contrasted with darkness, if that makes sense, right? Take, for instance, when you're going through with that maze tower in Dark Souls. You know, you're climbing up the tower and there's just all kinds of traps and like narrow walkways, and you're getting fucked in every direction by like traps and these snake people, right? And then you finally get up, you fight that boss, and then you're carried over the the tower, and then you're greeted with this beautiful view of Anne Orlando, which makes that entire struggle of that fuck ass tower that you were going up all worth it, you know. And it's something that I constantly have to reflect on in life, you know, where, you know, sometimes you're just going through absolute bullshit, and you know, it really sucks being in that fucking tower, you know, and you just have to trust and persevere through all that bullshit to be greeted with something beautiful, you know. And it's a lesson that I take with me throughout life and ever since playing Bloodborne. So going back to Dark Souls, it reminded me once again of this lesson. And that's kind of why I'm making this video and why I want to talk about it, you know, because it's an important lesson to me, and I'm sure it's important for other people to also, I guess, feel the same way that I do. Maybe someone else is going through hard times and they just need a reminder like, hey, sometimes shit gets better, you know. If you just stick with it and you persevere, you know, you're rewarded at the end. And I'm reminded of this with Dark Souls. There's a theme throughout this game of going hollow, right? Going hollow is like a mechanic in the game, you know. If you die, you lose your humanity and you go hollow. I don't think that affects health or anything, but regardless, it's a theme throughout the story where, you know, through a depressing world like Dark Souls, people tend to give up in a world like this, right? And they end up going hollow and losing their humanity. And it leads to things like corruption and depression and stuff like that, right? And throughout the characters that you'll meet through this game, everyone will say their goodbyes with, and don't you dare go hollow. Don't you dare give up. That's kind of the theme that I get throughout this game. Don't give up, you know? Don't lose your humanity. And, you know, I think that it's a great lesson. Something that I take with me every day. And this game is again a reminder of that same lesson. Because there was a point in time where I too could have went hollow, you know? There's a point in time where I don't know where I would be at today if I ended up giving up, you know? It's through perseverance that I was able to see a reward at the end. And Dark Souls is, you know, again, just a good reminder of that. This is why I think someone like Miyazaki, you know, the creator of Dark Souls and all that, this is why I personally hold him as one of the greatest artists of all time. And these Dark Soul games, I genuinely feel are the greatest examples of, like, say, video games being art, you know. Not just for the amazing actual visual art of these games, but also the storytelling, the gameplay mechanics tying into the story, and the art reflecting themes of the story. Like, everything about these games all comes together to tell a story and a narrative. And I genuinely feel that that story and narrative is hope. It's it's like the greatest way to show hope is through these games. That's what I take out of these games, is that the theme and narrative of a piece of art like Dark Souls and Bloodborne is just hope, you know? I do feel that people do take other things away from these games. I think a lot of people, I think, feel that these are a bit nihilistic of games in their themes, you know? I could see that with something like Bloodborne, but from what I take out of these games is a narrative of hope and again, that word comes up, perseverance. The reason I think that these games are trying to teach a lesson of hope is if you're looking at the games, it's very dark, depressing, hard, you know, everything that we described before, but it tries rewarding you for going through all this. It tries showing you good things happening after bad things do. Like, take for instance the one guy that praises the sun. I completely forgot his name, but there's a storyline within his little story arc, and if you do it correctly, you know, he's this very hopeful, cheerful person in this world of darkness, you know, and throughout the game, you know, he's looking for the power of the sun, right? That's all that he wants. He praises the sun. He wants to have the power of the sun, you know? But throughout his playthrough, or throughout his storyline, you could see him become a little hopeless, right? He starts becoming a little depressed when you find him in, I forgot what it's called, that big lava area, right? And if you do his story correctly and you make it to where he doesn't end up getting taken control of by like those mind control things, right? You end up finishing the game with him, and he's able to harness the power of the flame and have the power of the sun, right? And I think that's the true narrative of the game, is that he didn't give up hope, and he ended up persevering and found great accomplishment. It also shows a story about purpose. This guy, his purpose that he gave himself was to have the power of the sun, and through his journey, he never lost sight of the purpose of it all. He felt hopeless at a point through his journey, but through perseverance, he finally met his purpose. If you do the story correctly, obviously. But I think that's a big part of the story, is not just the perseverance, not just the hope, but also finding purpose. So I have a tattoo on my face. If you are not new to the channel, you know that I have a face tattoo, and I get asked a lot what the face tattoo is. The face tattoo is the hunter symbol from Bloodborne, and the reason why I have this hunter symbol is because of the lesson that these games have taught me. Finding hope and purpose and perseverance through hard times. These games have changed my life, and if it wasn't for Bloodborne, I wouldn't be where I am at today. And I have the hunter symbol tattooed on my face because I view myself kinda in the role of a hunter through the Bloodborne games, and I think that it's incredibly important to remind myself of the lesson that I've learned through these games. Although, you know, I don't tell people that whole long-winded explanation of why I got this video game tattoo on my face. I just tell them, oh, it's from a video game, one of my favorite video games, Bloodborne, right? And, you know, they think what they want about it. you know, sometimes they're like, oh, I thought that it was a teardrop. I thought that you were a gangster or something. Which I don't understand. But, you know, I also don't feel like explaining that whole long-winded thing. It's more just for me to remember to keep on going, and that's why it's important to me. These games mean a lot to me for that reason, and I think that it's really great that these video games could teach you something like that important. And I think that's really great of these games to express that in such an artistic way, you know? And I don't think that there's really anyone that expresses this level of detail and art in a video game art form like Miyazaki. So I guess to wrap up the video and to share, like, I guess the purpose of me making this video is that I have found a lot of great lessons through playing these games. They've completely changed my life, and I think that the message is incredibly important in this day and age where life is getting harder, and it feels like life isn't really going as planned in, you know, the current world. But it's up to you to find purpose, to find hope and perseverance, and life does get better if you just persevere. That's pretty much the message, I guess, I want to share with an audience, you know? Never lose sight of your purpose. Never give up, you know? Life always finds a way to reward you through your struggles. And with all that said, I hope you guys have a great day, and just remember, don't you dare go hollow.